Boom! SportsBit, Wednesday, May 9th, 2018. I'm Teddy Covers. Unfortunately, we have no Paul Howard today. He's having technical difficulties, internet issues. It happens on occasion, but that means I'm going solo for today's show. And we have a big show for you. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. We have top ROI pitchers in MLB. We're going to break down Celtics and the Sixers for tonight. We'll take a first look at the Big 12 win totals for football season, followed by shot clock and play of the day to close out the show. Let's get right into it. Start with a little bit of recap from what happened last night. A pair of NBA games, both series enders and both with point spread drama. We can call this one a bad beat if you like. The Warriors up 23 with 8 minutes left, 105-82. Final score, 113-104. Only 8 points in the final 8 minutes for Golden State. They don't get the money. The game stays under the total. And New Orleans got the money even with Golden State starters still on the floor. Warriors up big, can't close it out big. New Orleans gets the money even though Golden State survives and advances and the game stays under the total. We had point spread drama in the other game as well. The Rockets minus 11.5 / minus 12. They were trailing at the start of the fourth quarter. Made their run. They're up 12 with 22 seconds left. What happens? Rudy Gobert gets the dunk. The Jazz don't foul. Houston wins by 10, laying 11.5, 12. The point spread drama was exciting. Was only happy if you had a Utah ticket in that ballgame. The Rockets survive and advance, but the Jazz get the money. Talk about the opener for the series price. Golden State, the chalk, even on the road, minus 185. The opener for game one. Houston minus 2, total of 226. The opener next Monday. We'll break down this game big time on Monday's SportsBit, the beginning of next week. Bad for the books last night. Boy, there was a whole handful of games like that. No shortage in that regard. Certainly, Milwaukee took a bunch of money. They were plus 185 at the opener, closed plus 140. They won the game 3-2. The D-backs, Dodgers were favored last night. After all we talked about on SportsBit, the Dodgers were still the chalk. And you know what happened? They lost. D-backs took money. They got the money. Wild extra inning win over LA. The Yankees took the money, minus $2 up to minus 230. They stay red hot, the hottest team in baseball, and the books have not been able to adjust enough to keep the Yankees' money from coming in on a daily basis. Minnesota and Houston also took money and won last night. Neither of those two games good for bettors when it came to for the bookmakers when it came to MLB action. When it came to bad bets, well, the Warriors over, 227 bet up to 230. We saw those light scoring quarters in the second half. There were a pair of them. There was a 19-point quarter and an 18-point quarter. Golden State stopped scoring late. And the bottom line is that game stayed under the total despite all the over steam. The pace was there, but most of the game wasn't there in the fourth. The total bet up from 227 all the way up to 230. The books got to keep all of that money. What else last night? Well, we have the no-no in Toronto. James Paxton becoming the first Canadian to throw a no-hitter in his home country with Seattle beating Toronto. There was a previous no-hitter by a Canadian. You guys remember this one, right? Dick Fowler on September 1945 for the Philadelphia A's against the St. Louis Browns. That's how long it's been since a Canadian has thrown a no-no. Quote, to have it happen in Canada, what are the odds? It's pretty amazing, just very special. And against the Blue Jays, you couldn't write this stuff, James Paxton, with the dominant effort, of course, from a betting standpoint. Well, Toronto took the money last night. Seattle pitched the no-no. That, a good result for the bookmakers and a bad result for the bettors. The Angels took a bunch of money last night, plus 125 down to plus 105. They lost the game 4-2. Of course, the Phillies over 8, up to 8.5. That, too, was a wrong side. Bettors did not have the Phillies total right. When we look at early season ROI, and again, this is early stuff. There's a lot of randomness in this, but I think it's a good list to post and to post on a fairly regular basis. Take a look at which starters are actually making money and which starters aren't. And of course, a lot of it has to do with how they're priced into the equation. A lot of it has to do with how the team is playing behind them. Eduardo Rodriguez, the number one return on investment pitcher in all of MLB in early season play, followed by Max Scherzer, Rick Porcello, Carlos Martinez, Luis Severino, and Michael Wacha. Interesting, with the two Cardinals on that list, Martinez and Wacha, despite the fact that St. Louis, mediocre in early season play. You know, the Yankees have been hot. Boston's been hot. We know how good Scherzer are. Martinez and Wacha, sneaky good on that list early on. For the bottom ROI pitchers, and again, you want to take this something with a grain of salt. You're going to see bad teams on this list, but the one that stands out at the top is Clayton Kershaw. He's 2-5, and yet the Dodgers are minus 9.75 units in his starts. Homer Bailey winless, or the Reds are winless for Homer Bailey. The Royals winless in 7 starts for Jason Hamill. The Marlins winless in 7 starts for Jose Urena. Danny Duffy's been pretty rough for KC as well, but certainly Bailey at the top of that list when it comes to the most losses since he 0-8 in his 8 starts so far this season. Big game breakdown time. We have game 5 in Boston tonight. The Celtics against the 76ers. And we've seen significant line movement on this ball game. Line opened pretty close to pick. The first money came on Philly. Philly was bet right up to 1.5. Now we've seen a switch of favorites. The Celtics now minus 1.5 in most spots. So what we saw from the opener and the initial move has changed fairly dramatically going into game number 5. And of course, when you talk about a market adjustment, let's not forget Celtics were +4 at home in game 2 with the same roster they have now. Now they're chalk for game 5. We have seen the markets make the adjustment. We saw it between games 3 and 4, and we're seeing it very significantly here between games 4 and 5. Philly was laying, and not just a bucket, in games 1 and 2. Now they're dogs. Now, we've all heard it before. You know, no team has ever come back from an 0-3 to win an NBA playoff series. Teams, what do we got? 129-0 when leading 3-0. Celtics, 36-0 all time when taking at least a 2-0 lead in a series. So, and let's not forget Boston 6-0 straight up and against the spread in the postseason this year. So certainly when you're talking about trends and angles, not going to see a lot favoring the Philadelphia 76ers in this matchup. And yet Philly very much in a near pick-em price range in this ballgame, despite all the trends going in the other direction. And look, you know, what happened in game 4 for the Sixers to finally get a win in this series? TJ McConnell made a big difference. You know, McConnell gave him a real spark in the starting lineup. You know, Joel Embiid, got to give a lot of credit to TJ. He came in and changed everything in that contest. You know, Brad Stevens, quote, he was great. He was a tough guy. He's a heck of a basketball player. And obviously, we didn't do a good job of defending him, and his impact was tremendous. So, you know, can McConnell do more of the same tonight? He had a career-high 19. He had 7 rebounds. He had 5 assists. That was only his second start of the season for TJ McConnell. You wouldn't expect that type of effort 2 games in a row. But what do we expect from Boston here? Of course, the Celtics had another injury. Shane Larkin injuring his shoulder, banging into Embiid. We're not going to know until pregame shoot-around whether Larkin's going to be able to play tonight. But a Sixers team that, you know, doesn't have a whole lot of depth right now. They're going with an 8-man rotation in game 4. They may not have one of those 8 this evening. And of course, they had all kinds of foul issues when it came to game 4. 4 different guys had 3 fouls by halftime in that contest. They turned the ball over. You know, Brad Stevens kind of ripping his team after the game. Obviously, what did we end up with? 15 turnovers. The offensive rebounds were enormous for them. Just the extra possessions. Neither team shot it great, but they were really good tonight. And of course, Stevens saying they were really good tonight instead of saying we weren't that good tonight. Boston's talking the talk going into game 5. No question. One positive quote after the next from the Celtics. You know, Terry Rozier, I feel like we just have to come out, be aggressive, and try to make them quit. Marcus Smart, we're pit bulls. It's a dogfight, and we're going straight for the neck. Marcus Morris, immediately after the Game 4 loss. Goes, shit, I'm ready to go now. They had a lot to say in here. They did what they're supposed to do. They got one. Shit. So what do we did what we're supposed to do. We got one on the road. So we'll go back 3-1 and hopefully put it away. More Morris. It's tough. Anytime your starters are in foul trouble, and I was in a little foul trouble, it's kind of tough to get a rhythm because you're in and out. You can't be as aggressive, and the game is very aggressive. So it was hard for us to kind of not give back what they were doing to us. It is what it is, man. It's 3-1. We got a chance to go back to Boston. Nobody's head is down. We're all motivated. We're happy. It would have been better to end it now, but so be it. We got to go to Boston and play. They're saying the right things. The question is whether something actually shifted with that Game 4 win for Philadelphia, or whether it was just Celtics took a breath, McConnell got hot, etc., etc. I don't think Philly goes without a battle tonight. I'll put it that way. If I'm playing, it's the Sixers side I'm interested in. Boston's been a real moneymaker for me this postseason, and at home especially. But I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked to see Philly give them a game tonight and to see this series go back to Philadelphia for a Game 6 on Friday. Deep dive time. Let's take a look at the first win totals from the Big 12 Conference. We've gone through the SEC. We've gone through the Big 10. Let's take a look at the Big 12. Of course, the conference doesn't have 12 teams anymore. And, of course, you look at the standings from last year. Oklahoma at 12-2, TCU at 11-3, Oklahoma State at 10-3, the three teams that were clearly the class of the conference. The second tier was Iowa State, a surprise season last year, came on really strong. Kansas State, a little bit of a, not because they had disappointment, but they didn't compete for the title as some thought they would. Texas showed improvement last year. West Virginia, a team that looks pretty good on paper. That was kind of the second tier, and Texas Tech below them. And, of course, Baylor and Kansas at the very bottom. When we look at this year's numbers, frankly, they're pretty darn similar to what we saw from last year. The market's not expecting any dramatic upheaval. Oklahoma's still the class of the conference, and they have a 2-game lead over everybody else, despite the fact that they lose Baker Mayfield. Oklahoma State, TCU below them. And boy, a lot of mediocrity here. Kansas State at 7, West Virginia at 7, Texas at 7, Iowa State at 6, Texas Tech at 5.5, Baylor at 5, Kansas at 3. And of course, we are talking about a conference. No coaching changes. You know, Matt Rule back for his second season with the Bears. Matt Campbell now in his third season with Iowa State. He's got them pointed in the right direction. David Beatty, he's probably coaching for his job this year at Kansas. Bill Snyder just keeps hanging around at Kansas State. Lincoln Riley just got the job at Oklahoma last year. Mike Gundy didn't go anywhere. Gary Patterson's not going anywhere. Don Herman's a long-term hire. Cliff Kingsbury held onto his job. And Dana Holgorsen, of course, back for West Virginia. And again, to go through some of these numbers early, and this is very early, Oklahoma's numbers not going anywhere. They are the class of the conference. I do expect Texas to be a popular choice. Tom Herman's first season, 5-4 in Big 12 play. 5 of their 6 losses came by 10 points or less. This is a roster that is likely to attract betting market attention. If you like the Longhorns over, I would bet them sooner rather than later. And West Virginia is another team. When you talk about a conference where all the best quarterbacks graduated, obviously with Mason Rudolph and Baker Mayfield and on down the line, Will Grier is going to be back in West Virginia. That's good news for Dana Holgorsen and company. And West Virginia might be a little bit of a sleeper in here. Grier, of course, 3,500 yards and 34 touchdowns in his first season as a starting QB for a Holgorsen. So there's certainly something to like about that squad. But when you talk about the other end of the equation, all right, I like the West Virginia team. I do. Texas Tech. Let's get into shot clock time. I know I don't have Pauly. I'm going to do my shot clock talking about Texas Tech, the best over-under in the Big 12 for 2018. And mine's got to be TCU under 8. All right. We love Gary Patterson. We understand that Gary Patterson's teams tend to overachieve. And certainly this is not a loaded conference at the top. But TCU under 8, this team lost 35 seniors to graduation. After injuries and transfers and attrition, they were down 60 players from the team that beat Stanford in the Alamo Bowl. They've got Ohio State in early season play. They got at SMU on the road. I don't know about TCU winning more than 8 games. In fact, I think they'll win less than 8 games. TCU under 8 is the one that stands out to me for the shot clock. And boy, it's the one that stands out to me for play of the day as well. We talk about this Horned Frogs team. There's a lot of residual love baked into TCU's numbers. And there's a lot of up-and-comers in the Big 12 this year. Call it rebuilding time for the Horned Frogs and Gary Patterson. TCU under 8. That's the play of the day. That's 8 wins for the 2018 season. That's the play of the day. There you have it. I expect we'll have Pauly back with us tomorrow. It was a technical issue, an internet issue. I don't know what's going on with the internet in his house, but the last thing you want to watch is video of Pauly looking like this and not hearing his voice. So he should be back tomorrow. We will break down MLB action. We'll take a look at all the bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Talk about Sixers-Celtics from tonight and lots more on SportsBit. Be sure to check back tomorrow. And thanks for watching today. Betting Insight today from SBRpicks.com and sponsored by Intertops.com. If you are looking for a reputable offshore sportsbook with big bonuses, go to the SBR Sportsbook Review page. Click on the bonus link for Intertops and sign up for a new account today. You can take advantage of these numbers that we're talking about. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games and good luck.